text, basically, I will just take an analogy. Okay, suppose assume that there are two people. Okay, suppose assume that there are two people are there. Like there are two people in our team. I'll take some names also. Like for example, there are two people like Rajesh and Ravindra. Like we two are the guys. Right. What we need to do, right? Basically, Ravindra and Rajesh, right? So this fellow is Rajesh. Is Ravindra. Correct. And also, apart from these two people, Ravindra and Rajesh, okay, so I'll just draw the legs also, so that, okay. And also here we have something known as a computer. This could be a computer, this could be a, like mobile or a laptop, anything. So this is a computer actually. There is a triangle, uh, something like this, right? This is the laptop, right? Or it's a computer. Now, whenever Ravindra and Rajesh, they want to communicate each other, how basically they'll communicate each other? So basically they will communicate each other with the help of some language, right? It could be an English or it could be in Hindi, it could be in Urdu, it could be Kannada, it could be any language where this both the guys they want to communicate each other, right? So to communicate each other, there has to be some common language. So consider that they are using some English as a common language, right? Now, so whenever they want to communicate each other, English is a very common language, we know, and like how English was built, like we have a lot of characters, like 26 characters are there. So A, B up to A to Z, there are 26 characters are there. We use a lot of like words to form a word, and through the word we are forming a sentence, blah blah blah. So many things we are doing it right. We are actually deriving a sentence or phrases and everything. Finally, what happened that you have got a structured way where we use that structured way to communicate each other. It means that for each and every word, there is a meaning for that, and there is a sound for that, so that you will understand the expression of the stuff, and also you will comfortably able to communicate each other, right? So Ravindra and Rajesh, they both will communicate each other with the help of some common language, which is English. Now assume that Ravindra knows Telugu and Rajesh knows English, right? If we both want to communicate each other, if he is speaking in Telugu to me and Rajesh is speaking with Hindi to him or whatever other language which Ravindra doesn't understand, right? We cannot communicate each other, right? So, so we need to understand a common language actually, right? So that's what we have an English language, right? So that's how the language derived, right? And a lot of people talk to some common language where they can understand each other, right? Suppose the same stuff, assume that Ravindra want to communicate with this computer. Ravindra want to communicate with this computer. He said, okay, whatever I'm communicating with Rajesh, the same stuff I want to communicate with this computer. So how we can communicate with it? Because he cannot communicate with English, because he said that, okay, he'll tell, Ravindra will tell that, Rajesh, I want to communicate with this computer. We'll do one thing, we'll make this computer to learn English actually. We'll make this computer to learn to English, so that I can start communicating with this computer. Or else Ravindra might say that you make this computer to learn Telugu. Let us teach this system or the computer to learn Telugu. Then what happened, right? I will be able to communicate with this system with Telugu language. But guys, do you think that the computer can understand English or Telugu or Hindi or Kannada? It doesn't understand, right? It doesn't understand any language. It only understands one language, which is nothing but the machine language. But we might have gone through all these things in our computer in our early days, right? When we were,
Yes, it's binary
right?
language, zeros and
Yes,
ones.
exactly. So it learns, so your system or the laptop or your computer can understand only binary language or machine understandable language. So what is binary language? Zeros and ones. Correct.
Yes.
So now the point is that actually now Ravindra, what he want to say that Ravindra or Ravi, he said, Rajesh, I want to communicate with this machine with the binary language now. So because humans are so intelligent that they can learn any language, now we have been told to Ravindra to learn binary language. Okay, fine. He will say that, okay, let me learn how to write a binary language. So he will learn the art of doing a binary, learning the binary language, zeros and ones. Like for example, Ravindra, he want to communicate with this machine. Suppose like he want to give an input as something like A. Okay, I have to tell to the system that, okay, please, there is a character. Now this machine, the system doesn't understand the A, because you need to communicate the binary. Now what Ravindra has to do, he has to convert this character A into the binary language. Correct? How he's going to communicate it? Okay, let us see how he communicates. So there is something like a binary converter, right? Let me check the binary converter. You can open any links. Okay, let me open this link actually. Or binary converter, anything, yeah. Right. So this is like kind of a converter, or else let me see any other link. Rapid getable. Yeah. So this is a converter. Now what happens? See, not this one. This is nothing but binary to your decimal, right?
You have text option C by from text to binary.
Text, right? Okay, text. Sorry, text to the binary. Correct. Yeah, correct. Now, yeah, you're right actually, Shweta. So now what happened, right? Suppose if I give an input as A, and if I convert it, like I'm converting from the text to the binary, see, it will convert into the binary, right? So I'll just, so basically what Ravindra will do, he will try to communicate with the system with this help of this binary actually. What is this binary? He will give this inputs as a to this machine actually. Once this machine understands this inputs, it will accept that input and it replies or it returns some value or it responds to your value. So response something like machine has accepted this value and the machine will respond to with something saying that I have accepted your inputs, right? So what the machine will reply, he said, okay, I have accepted it actually like this. So when he says accepted, he will return this code actually, correct? He will return this code. So this is nothing but the accepted code actually, right? So this is nothing but accepted code. So the machine will return the accepted code like this, like this. Correct, guys? So this is nothing but an accepted code which the machine has replied. Or else if it is rejected, if it is rejecting it, obviously it will return this rejected. Correct? It will reject this value. So this is the value. This is the binary output for the rejected actually. So this output will be given by your system to the user actually. It will return the value like that. Okay, so anyhow, we have started communicating with the system with the help of a binary. So what Ravindra has to do, Ravindra has to learn an art of writing any kind of inputs or everything to the system with the help of binary language. He has to run this language of ones and zeros, right? Now assume that actually Ravindra want to communicate with this with the machine with something like hello lumen actually. If he says hello lumen, right? See, so for just getting an input, giving a passing input of hello lumen, see, he has to give such a big inputs to this machine, right? See, this much big input he has to give just to give input as hello lumen, right? So it is very, very cumbersome actually. It is very difficult. Assume that just I'm writing one line of code. Assume that there are some thousands of instructions, a very big program I'm writing. Ravindra is writing and he has to give it. Do you think that he can write such a big program, a lengthy program? He can give as input to the system, right? It is very difficult. So he will do a lot of mistakes actually. So to overcome that, what has happened, right? To make the life easy for Ravindra, there is one more language which was written or developed. We call it as an assembly language, actually.
Mm.
Assembly language. So assembly, okay, sorry, I'll write it down here. Assembly language. Now, assembly language, it is near to your kind of an English language itself, actually. Okay, but it is a mix of binary and English. Okay, so you might have heard about assembly level language like x86 assembly language instruction or a RISC assembly language. There are different assembly language instructions are based on the processor type. Okay, so now what will happen that what Ravindra will do, like hello lumen, how he will do? No, he will say hello HEL 010 like this. He'll give okay lumen LU okay 0010 like this. He will give an input actually. Now, this is nothing but the assembly level language instruction which he want to convey to this machine. Okay, this is a new language was been developed. Okay, by the engineers, and you have to give the inputs. But this machine or this computer said that still I don't understand your language, man. What I will understand your language, this language. I only understand the binary is 1 and 0. I cannot understand. So what has happened that the people who has designed the assembly language, right? They have even designed the assembler converter. Assembler, you say. It is like a translator. It is like a converter. What the assembler will do, you give the input to this assembler. This assembler will convert to the machine level language and it will give the input in the binary form. Right. So this is what later it came into the stuff like where people started writing assembly language and they convert into assembler. There's a one more special programmer we call as a assembler programmer. So we used to give inputs to assembler. This act like a translate weight. It will translate the language from your assembly level language to the machine understandable level language. But again, the stuff happened that like this itself was becoming very difficult because like again, it's a combination of some, the instructions, assembly like instructions, plus you need to even have a little knowledge on binary. So it is also a kind of a very difficult language. So this binary level language or this assembly level language, we call it as a low level language actually. See, there are different types of languages. We have types. Oddly, the languages are classified into two types, guys. One is nothing but your assembly level language or nothing but, sorry, low level language. Guys, I hope you are not getting bored.
No,
I'm just
Rajesh.
recalling, I'm just recalling some few basic stuff which you might have
Learn
you have
college.
learned.
Yes, I'm thinking of my teacher right now.
Yes, yes.
Very nice.
Language, yes, high level language. This is the two level type of language we have, right? Low level and high level. In the low level language, again, you have two types. And one is nothing but your assembly level. The other is a machine understandable or binary machine level. Why? Because machine and assembly, they call it a lower language because humans cannot understand it very clearly. That's what we call as a low level language. High level language is where a human can communicate or human understands. What are the high level languages? High level languages, you know that there are many languages like C, C++, Java, .NET, right? Python, correct? What else? Go language. The list is huge actually. If you see, there are 90 plus languages are there. High level languages are there. Plain GUA, GS, right? Languages are there. Correct. So now the stuff comes that now things were getting very serious because a lot of complex programmings where people were doing a lot of big programs they were attempting to write in assembly level language. And this assembly level language, right? It was pertaining to some specific architecture. Suppose you have written assembly level language to the x86 architecture, you cannot run the same program in a RISC or Sparks architecture like this. I'm not going in detail. I'm just telling you because it was a platform dependent. It was not a platform independent. It was platform dependent. So there was a stuff, right? You cannot port the same program into any other architecture. So there was a problem that once you give any program or application to the customer, you will say that you need to run to the x86 processor only. You cannot run in any other architecture. Like that, it used to happen earlier. So as things progressed, as a lot of great scientists they started working on this absolute level language program. Finally, what happened that they came with this high level language program like this. Now this high level language program, what they did, right? Let us write a very high level using a high level language program. I can write it. Like for example, suppose I want to write a hello world actually. Okay, I want to write a hello world actually. Suppose I want to write this hello world. In Python, how you're going to write this hello world? Simple. Just say print hello world. That's all. Just one line. Just this one line, you are able to write and you're able to execute this program to get the output as hello world. Correct. Now you might have some doubts. What is this print, Rajesh? What is it? You don't worry now. This print is like a function actually. Okay, it's a function. There are many functions are there in Python where we use those functions and models to achieve our task actually. Okay. Now you would say that okay, fine, Rajesh. This is a one single line program you have written to achieve the task of executing hello world. Fine. Now suppose that same program, hello world program, I want to execute in the C language. C. How we used to write earlier in 1980s or 85s, right? When C was evolved by Denisici, right? What he did, right?
Printf.
Yes. So he used to write like this. See, hash include st.h.
stdio.h.
Yes. Int main void something like this. You have to write.
Yeah.
Open the curly bracket.
Yes.
Then you say that Rajesh. What is it? Sorry. Check. sorry, I think, yeah. So write like this, printf, hello world.
Hello world, semicolon, close it. Close the parenthesis. Yeah.
Return,
Return.
return.
Yeah, I can see H0. Yeah.
So what you have to do, right? See, you used to write some program. So basically what happened at this high level language, what you're doing, right? You need to create a file, and inside a file you need to write this complete set of line, right?
Right.
Similarly, when the guy used to write the binary, like Ravi used to give an input to the machine by writing a binary, how he used to give an input? He used to write a file and he used to add this 10 10 10 10. Finally, he used to give an input to this machine actually, correct? Through a file, we used to give an input. That's what we call it as a programmer. Why programmer is whatever the program instructions we have, we will write in a file, and basically we will try to further process that file actually, right? So that is what the programmer will do. So Ravindra is a programmer. So that's what we say. Python is a programming language. It means that basically you can write some file and you can write some instructions or the syntax or functions or instructions of the Python, and then you try to run that program. So that's what we call it as a programming language. It means that you need to program it. You need to write into a file. Correct? Now, what I'm trying to tell here, I'll come back to here. Now, whenever I want to print this hello world by using C language, which was a legacy language, right? The first language, the first most language, which high level language which came, right? And which was designed by Dennis Ritchie, right? So he had written this hello world program, right? So you could see that there are so many lines of code you have to write it, a single, just print a hello world, right? So the same program, assume that, sir, you need to write the same program you need to achieve in Java programming. So, right? Hello world, see here. Hello world in different languages, see? Not in different languages. You'll get, see here, hello world, 74 languages or something like that. See, there are so many are there. If I go to this link, actually, see. So the same program I want to write in a Java. Hello world, see. The aspect J language, Apple script language, assembly level language, right? Hello world, right? Basics language, C language, C, this is what we written. And when you come down, Java will go for the Java, Go language, Groovy language, see, Java, see, you need to copy this line. I'll do one thing, I don't have a space. Let me open one more in this paint. See, now what I have to do, I have to write the same program in the Java program, in the Java. See, the instructions are getting increased. You need to learn many steps to code the same program, right? When it comes to the Python, just in a single line, I have written, I have executed it, right? So now what happened, right? All these languages like C, C++, or any other language, right? Whenever you write any program, right, you need to compile that program actually. So suppose you have a hello.c, which I have written this code, right? Whatever we have a code, right? This code, hash include, blah, 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 the same code, right? Okay. Or else I'll copy from here, actually. I'll copy from the net. Here, anyhow, we have, right? Yeah, or C, C++ or C hash. See? Sorry, here, this one. So basically what happened, that I need to give after writing this program, basically what I have to do, right? I need to give this, I need to compile the program actually. So so I need to give to the compiler actually. So compiler is something like you have a GCC compiler, right? So what the compiler will do, compiler will compile this program which is written in a high level language, and it will give a output as a machine understandable language, or we call it as a binary actually, right? So we call in Linux or in Unix, we call it a.out program. We'll get a.out. So this a.out is nothing but it is a binary format actually. It is an ELF format, executable and linking format, we say. So finally we'll execute this program we'll execute the program so that our application get executed. Correct. So now what has happened, right? When these languages were developed, right? Earlier C, C++ and all were developed, right? So we need to learn a lot of syntaxes. We need to learn a lot of complexity of that programming. Also, you need to learn the syntax. You need to go through the manuals, learn many things. So it was really very difficult to anyone to learn these languages, right? And finally you need to compile those programs and you need to get the executable output, right? So this was what was happening, from very long time actually, right? So now, but anyway, it was better, right? Because like here, instead of doing in a binary or into the assembly language, this was better because it is like an English level, right? The people can easily understand, or he can easily write this program. So there was a betterment when they started implementing the high level language. Correct, guys? Right? Instead of writing this was easier, right? Compared to earlier
Right.
previous, right? So now that's how what happened, right? This high level language came into the picture. Now, so there was one guy by name Ideo Van Rassam actually. Okay. So this guy, he was basically a C developer. He was a developer actually, and he was writing many of the programs actually using C language actually. What he saw that actually, he saw that like there was so much complexity was there in the C language because you need to learn many programming constructs, you need to learn data structures, right? Many things are there, and it was not so simple also. So, and for his project development, right, he was facing a lot of issue, right, with C language. Then what he thought that uh, let me write my own language, right? So what he did, right, like for example, you want to print some string actually. Okay, what he had did, right? He wrote a print function. Okay, so to implement the print function, what he did, right? Whatever the code required for that printing, right? Whatever the code was written, he used to write that code. He used to bundle that code as a package actually, as a package. This is like a package. This is like a package. And what happened, right? To call this package or to call this bundle, he had written one function actually. He has written one function. And that function is number the print function. So what Goodyear Van Ransom say that you don't need to learn all this complexity of how the print works and you need not to write this entire program. I have written a package for that and a simple print function I've called. This is like you can call it as a function pointer or just call as a function and just call that function in your program. So what he says that you need to just use my function and few basic syntax you need to understand and then you can achieve whatever you require it. So what happened, right? As and when what happened that this fellow Goodyear Van Ransom, right? He wrote many functions, and finally, what happened, right? He came up with a language which he called it as a Python language actually. Like that way. I'm not going in a very detail into the history of it, but I will touch few of the things. So that's how it started actually. The Python was no evolved actually, right? Many of the functions he wrote. So in the year 1989, like he started coding it, and up to 1991, he completed the whole Python, programming everything. And like he started his own organization. He called it as a Python Foundation, Software Foundation actually. And the whole Python was kept under this Python Software Foundation, and he make it as a open source actually. We know very well that Python is an open source, right? We will discuss few things about what is an open source and all later after some point of time. Okay, so that's how he did it, and like in a span of just 2 years, he developed the entire code, the entire programming construct, everything he has developed it, and he has put under the Free Software Foundation. It's an open source. It means that it doesn't has any licensing cost. It is a free language. You can use it for your purpose, right? So that's what we call it as open source. So fine. So now what happened that actually that when it comes to the programming construct, right? Like let me give some more inputs actually. Like for example, suppose assume that we have a developer. There's one developer is there. Okay. He has to develop some application. Suppose like he want to develop some web application or something. So he will choose a language actually, right? He will choose a language. So like suppose assume that he loses a language like C language. Okay. So he will write a code, right? So what he will do, he will just write a code, like some code he will write, some code he will write. And assume that this code, nothing but this, he has chosen the C language actually. Now, so by using some high level language program, he has coded that application. Now we have a, like we have a different servers, right? We have a different servers over here. Like we have something like assume that we have something like Windows machines, right? I'll take some names: Windows server or Windows operating system. We have Linux operating system. We have something like a Mac operating system, Mac. I'll just take few. Okay. Now the same developer, he want to make his code run under the Windows actually. So what happened, right? Because this is a high level language program and the system has a Windows, the Windows system, it doesn't understand this high level language program which you have written, right? Either you have written in C, C++ or any language, it doesn't understand. So basically it can understand only through the binaries, right? Zeros and ones. So hence what happened, right? You have something known as a compiler. Correct, guys? You have something known as a compiler. Basically for Windows, right, we have something like a Borland Turbo C compiler. You might have heard this, right? Turbo C compiler. We have used, right? Turbo C compiler. So what used to do, right? We used to compile the whole code in the Borland C compiler. After we compile it, after we do it, what we used to get, right? We used to get the .exe, right? And this .exe, we used to give an input to this machine, and this machine is to get, it is to execute this program. Correct? Similarly, I used to write a program, the same program I used to write in some C language. Correct? I used to write in C language. Some program I used to write in C language. I need to run this program under this Linux operating system. But the Linux operating system or the machine doesn't understand the C language. So you need to basically give the inputs as a binaries or into the machine understandable level language, right? Zeros and ones, right? So what you used to do, like you used to have something like a GCC compiler. GCC compiler. So what this GCC compiler will do, it will take an input of this C program. It is to compile and it is to give the output as a A.out, assembler output, something like this. So this A.out program, right, whatever you have, right, you used to give this input to your Linux machine, and Linux machine used to execute your A.out program, correct? This exe is to give inputs to the Windows, it is to execute. Similarly for the Mac, same stuff. You have the program, some program is there, right? Some program you have written it. You need to execute this program under the Mac operating system, but you cannot directly execute it, right? So that's the reason what happened, right? You have some compiler by name, if you have heard of it, LLVM is a compiler which is used in your Mac option actually. So this is to convert it actually in some kind of a format known as a COF format. And this COF format we used to give input to your Mac and the Mac used to execute the program. Now the stuff is that actually that this same different, I might be using the C program here, you might be using some C++, or here you might be using a Java program. You need to compile all these programs to make sure that your program get executed into that particular system, right, where you have a different flavors of operating system, right? Now the stuff is that actually that you say that Rajesh, I have written this program. So my program I have compiled using the Borland C compiler, right? Borland C compiler. So Borland C compiler, right? Whenever you want to compile under the Borland C compiler, what Borland C compiler say that actually you need to follow some syntax. You need to follow some formats so that whenever you're writing any program, you need to follow that syntax only. Because if the syntax get changed, I will not be able to compile the program. Correct? Similarly, when you are compiling through the GCC compiler says that I have a syntax or I have some programming constructs or the functions. You need to use that particular functions or the syntax only. Then only I will be able to compile it. Otherwise, I will throw an error. So here, what is happening that to make sure that suppose like you want to port this application from the Windows to the Linux machine, you need to do the entire coding. You have to do a lot of codings changes, right? You have to do the source code changes, everything. Similarly, the same program you need to migrate or you need to you want to make it to run under Mac, you need to do the whole change of the source code only. So this was a very difficult task actually for the developers, right? So this was a very a drawback in the C language as well as to some extent C++ also. Like you cannot port the same program into any other flavors of operating system, right? You need to do a lot of stuff. You need to do the code change as well as you need to compile it and finally you have to execute it. So this is what the drawback which was there earlier. So what happening that these compilers they have to be there and they have to compile the code from the high level language to the machine understanding language. They have to do the translation or they have to do the conversion, right? Now, what has happened actually that what the same stuff, this was a disadvantage what this fellow, right, Gudio Van Ransom saw it actually. So that's the reason what happened during that time when he started understanding this drawback. He thought that let me write a language where that language will be a cross-platform actually. So we call Python as a cross-platform language actually. So what do you mean by cross-platform? Cross-platform basically what it says that actually that here you saw the disadvantage that you whenever you want to port your application which was running in Windows to the Linux, you need to do the source code changes as well as you need to based on the compiler which you are using, and finally you need to compile the program and you will get a dot out and you will execute in your Linux machine. The same application. Suppose you have some VLC which you have written for a Borderlands C compiler. We have vlc.exe, right? The same program you cannot run in Linux because Linux can understand the a.out or something like vlc a.out, right? So to achieve this vlc a.out, right, you need to rewrite the whole program so that that program the GCC can understand, compiler can understand, right? So this was very hard during that time. You cannot migrate it actually. Okay. But what this person did, right? He wrote so many, he made the Python, that language, what he has developed, right, as a cross-platform. It means that what he says that now, okay, boss, whatever the program you have written, actually, the same program, let me see, sir, let me see. Yeah, the same program, whatever this program has written, you need to write the program only once. That's all, right? So there, what he says that actually, he says that actually the Python has its own Python compiler, inter Python compiler. So what this Van did, right? This person, who is that? Dudio Van Rassam, right? He had written his own Python compiler actually. And what this Python compiler does, right? Basically, it will try to convert whatever the program which you have written, right, into the bytecode actually, into the bytecode. Bytecode is something like whatever the program you written, right? It is internal, it will convert to some like a bytecode like this actually. That's all. Right. Now you say that Rajesh, the same bytecode, whatever internally the Python compiler has compiled it, I need to execute this code under the Windows, Linux, and Mac actually. So what you say is that okay, no problem. You have the same flavor, different flavors of operating system, right? Which is nothing but your Windows, same Windows, and you have a Linux, and you have a Mac actually. What Van Gooden says that actually, like after you install Python in your machine and all kind of installing software install it, by default what happened that the Python compiler also will get installed, and in turn Python within the Python actually there is something known as a Python virtual machine will also get installed. Right, in Java we have JVM, right? Java virtual machine, right? Similarly, like that, we have a Python virtual machine like this. So what this Python virtual machine will does, right? It will try to convert this bytecode, this PVM, convert this bytecode into the binaries actually. It will convert into binaries actually, like zeros and ones. The same code, what it is, it will try to convert everything into this binary code like this internally. You need not to worry. See, you need not to worry all this. It will do it. And what this PVM will do, it will try to execute this binary code line by line. That's how it does. Similarly, what happened, right? If you're working on a Linux platform, yes, you install the Python and everything. By default, internally, what happened that you will get a PVM, Python virtual machine. It is for you the Linux actually. Okay. So what the PVM will do, whatever the bytecode is there, right? That bytecode it will convert into the binaries like this internally by the PVM. And the PVM will start after it loads the whole after it loads this binary, right? It will try to execute this binaries line by line. One after that, it will execute it. Similarly, for the Mac also, we have a separate PVM actually. It will also convert the same program into this binaries like this, and it will it will try to start executing this binaries. So what happened once you install the Python it will in turn you will get even this PVM also, Python virtual machine, right? And it will start executing it. So now what has happened, right? The same program which you were trying to run in a different flavors of operating system, right? You need to do a lot of code changes, right? Now, when it comes to the Python, actually, you need not to write to specific to some operating system. The same code, what you can do, right? With the help of a Python, it can work or it can run the same program in the different architecture also. So that is what the that's why we call Python it as a uh, you know cross-platform language. Actually, it means that the same code you need not to do any source code change. You can execute in any flavor of operating system. It will work because of this concept of this PVM actually. So what is this PVM and all? We will see later more details about this. Okay, but in turn, what happened, right? All these things comes within your Python package only when you once you install Python. So this is what it was written by your
Video
Goodyear
van.
Van Helsing. Yes. Now, what the thing is that stuff is that actually to make it life simpler to the developer or to the user, right? What they have did, right? This portion, right? This portion of compiling and all, this has been hidden to the developers. It means that when you are executing a program, it in turn does the compiling and all, but it will not show it actually to you. That's what it is. So that's the beauty of the Python, that it does the compiling intern, and later that compiled program will in turn get executed by the PVM, but he will hide all this complexity in turn. It means that when you are running a Python code, you will never know. You will understand as if like it is an interpreted language, but it is not an interpreted language. It is a programming language itself, but in turn it gets compiled actually through a Python compiler, right? Right, that's how it is actually. And this PVM also does no execute this line by line this code. That's what a lot of people say. The Python is also an interpret language. That is also, that statement is also correct. It is not like you only say as a programming. It will be even called as a interpret language also. Right. So that's how it is. Okay. Now, is it clear, guys? Still here? Any doubts you have?
No, by it is clear.
Okay. Fine. Now, so that's how it is. That's how this Python was evolved actually after seeing this all this complexity of everything, right? So that's how, right? Now that's what you see, right? I use this statement as a Python is a programming language file. Why we call it a program? Because we write into a file and we give the input to the Python compiler. It compiles and that's what we call as a programming language, right? And Python is a general purpose language. See, general purpose. Why we call it as a general purpose? Because like Python it has fledged into so many different areas that you can develop any application with the help of a Python, right? Like for example, like you want to develop any website, you can use a Python language. Okay, fine. You want to, develop some complex, arithmetic computation program, you can use a Python, right? So Python has become a very, very general. Like nowadays, like the hot trend is like nothing but you have a data analytics, like the big data, Hadoop, machine learning, AI, artificial intelligence, right? Everywhere you are seeing that Python has been heavily used because it acts like a general purpose actually. It means that it's a very simple to write because like you will be using the functions which are brought by the Python, right? You will be using it. It is like an English word, and with very less syntax you can write it. See, now when Ravindra and Rajesh, when they are communicating each other, they are using some common English language, right? Now, don't you see that this language, English language, has become so much common that you will see everywhere. Suppose if I go to my son's school and if I enter to the school, now there's a big board, Hill Rock National Public School. It is written in English. Okay, fine. If I go to the bus stand and sit, if I see any board, the bus route, it is written in English, right? And if you go to any mall and all, it is written in English. If you see any road map and everything, it is written in English, right? Even like if you buy anything, suppose if I have a laptop, you see the keyboard, it is written in English. Okay, you buy some refrigerator, it is LG refrigerator, it is written in English. Neo refresh, written in English. You see that the English language has become so common that even in our day-to-day activity, whatever we are seeing, whatever we are communicating, it has become so common, right? So English has become like a general language. Have you seen that if I go to the bus stand or if I go to the airport, it is written in Urdu language? Have you seen it? It is written. Yes, of course they use Hindi language, English, but English is a most common language they use, right? You go to any country, the way of communicating with the people is through English only. You buy any product, everything written in English itself, right? So that much effect has been come by using English, right? So that's what we call it as English as general purpose. The same thing, what Python has happened nowadays, it has become a general purpose language because people want to, suppose some people, the developer they want to develop some IoT, programs, they use Python. Okay, fine. Suppose some person want to develop the web, as I said, they use a Django with Python to develop the web framework, right? Suppose some people want to develop some database related programming, they use a Python because Python supports many of the database related models, right? By using that, you can code even the database language also. Like you want to integrate, you want to write the MySQL programming, so you have lot of models which the Python can integrate, communicate with the models related to the MySQL, related to the PostgreSQL, related to the MongoDB, okay, related to the Sybase, right? Something like that. So like that, and to like a lot of, as I said, like a lot of data analytics are very much into the picture nowadays, right? So you'll be using many of the different flavors of Python to achieve, to collect all the data and have a very nice format, everything with the help of a Python. So Python has extended its full fledged in every area. That's the reason what happened, right? Python has become very much favorable language. People are using Python. And the most important thing that Python is an open source. So it means that open source means, suppose this Van Rosum, right? He has developed this print function, right? He has developed his print function. This he has written the code and he has packaged it, and he is using a function by name print, so that if a user actually calling a print, actually it in turn is actually referring to this package. You need not to understand all this in what he has written it, but you have to only use the function what it has been provided by the Python author, right? Similarly, suppose I want to open a file, you will use an open function actually. I want to write something to write, you want to use some write function. The complexity of all these functions, right? What Gudio Van has did, right? He has written a package for this everything, sir. Yes. He has written a package for everything. This package, he has written all these libraries, functions, everything he has written like this. And finally, what is happening that he is actually calling one function like something like open. And this function, he will say that please use this function in your program. So you know that, okay, Rajesh, I have something like file.txt. I want to open this file. No problem, sir. Just to say here, just say open. Like pass this argument as file.txt. See, it becomes so simple, right? You need not to worry. You need not to put a semicolon. You need not to put any. You need not to involve in any kind of a syntax, big syntaxes. It is a very plain, simple language. So that's the reason what has happened, right? Once it has become an open source, the first thing is that you need to provide any licensing cost, right? And second is that it is a cross-platform. It means that the same program what you have written in Python, you can run in a multiple different flavors of operating system, right? So now once you have become an open source, what open source means that this package is also available for you, any one of you. One of you want to learn how this print is in turn working. I want to this package, I want to see this coding and all. Please go to the Python Foundation, python.org, download this package and extract it and see it, and you can see the code. And also what you need to do, customize your own. You said, Rajesh, print has been developed by this person. Okay, fine. But I want to do changes to this print. I want to behave accordingly what we have requirement in our company. You'll say that, no problem, sir. Go to this packet, download it, and do the customized changes, apply it. It will work on it. It means that they have given so much flexible that you can go intern to this programming code which is written by this Gudio Van Ratsam. You can change according to your requirement also, right? So that is what we call as an open source actually. Right. Okay. And one more thing, very important feature, guys, that Python is also an extendable language actually. By extendable language. Extendable language means actually, suppose in a company, suppose that they give some requirement to develop an application. Nowadays, like they'll give a requirement to develop some applications. Now, the thing is that you cannot use any one language to develop an application, right? You will be using something like a, like front end application. Suppose like you will be developing with the help of a HTML language or a CSS language or a JavaScript we use, right? And this is like a front level, front end actually. In the back end, you will be using something like a Python. So the back end you will be using, so the main program or the main application you will be using Python language to write it. right? And there are many other models of your applications are there where you'll be, suppose like you have some other model of your application where you will be using something like a C hash. Actually using C hash, you're trying to develop an application. It's the same. All these are part of the same one application, sir. But you might not be using one language tool. You'll be using a multiple different languages. As well as you know that we have a database also, right? You have a database also. Now the stuff is that actually that the Python has to even communicate with your C hash also, correct? The Python should communicate with C hash also. The Python should communicate with your all this front end like Java, JavaScript and all. So that's the reason what happened that the Python is a extendable language. It means that the Python it even understand the JavaScript also. It understands the implementation of C hash also. So that's what you can call the C hash functions within the Python. You can call the JavaScript functions, everything within the Python. That's what Python has become an extendable language program. See, you cannot call any C++ function within your C program. You cannot call that because there are many object-oriented functions are there of C++, which the C language cannot understand. Similarly, with even with your Java also. Java cannot call many of the other functions of other language. You cannot call a Go language within the Java actually, because Java might not support the Go language. I mean, I don't know, it might support or it might not also, but I'm just saying that it might not support. So you cannot call Java as a completely extendable level language. But whereas the Python is an extendable language, because again the question comes, you might ask me how you are saying, Rajesh, it is a Python is a is an extended language. Now what this fellow has did, the Goodyear veteran son, right? What this fellow did know, because you know that he was working earlier in the C language level language program, C language actually. So what he has did, right? He has packaged everything, whatever he has written in C language. He packaged everything. He called it. He made it as a package, and he bundled everything actually. And then in turn he called one function actually, right? And that function only he gave to the user actually. So something like a print function, print something like a copy function, right? Something like a move function. These are all functions are there. I will tell you later. There are many functions are there. So these functions all are developed by him actually. But how he developed all these functions, again using the C language only he developed it actually. So it means that all this Python packages, everything what he had developed, in which language he wrote actually. He used the C language only, to write it. Then the question comes, you say, Rajesh, when the entire complete Python implementation you have used in C, then why we are having a different language in the Python? Why can't we use in C only? Yes, we can use C also, but all this complexities, everything he has wrapped into it and into a bundle or into a package, right? And you need not to understand the complexity of this bundle or complexity of this package. Only you have to know how to use this function. So he has made our life easy. Like that, he has developed many packages like that. All these packages are nothing but it's a library function which he has written in C language itself, and he has come up with the functions. Got it? Now, similarly, so that's how it is actually. So that's what happened, right? It has extended it. It means that even within your Python, even you can call a C function also. Within a Python, you can even call the C++ also, because they have written so many bundles. Some other, like because since it's an open source, many of the other people, other developers around the world, right? They have written many of the functions. What they have did, right? They have used the C++ language. They have created package and libraries, bundles, everything. They have written some functions actually, and that function they called it as they integrated within the Python itself actually. So that's the reason what happened, right? Many other, like if I don't know whether many of you know or not actually, like, the Python, right? It is developed in the C language. Python is also developed in the Java language also. You know, that's what we call, like there are different flavors of Python are there, if you have heard of or not. There is something like a C Python. So this is the Python which is written in the C language actually. There is something as a Jython. Have you heard of Jython? This Jython is
Yes, I have
mostly
heard
used
of.
in our machine learning and artificial intelligence, right? So this Jython is nothing but what the Java developers have did, right? They have used the Java programming construct everything as a bundle and packaged everything, compiled, packaged and everything. They've called one function. That function will something it is used in Python actually. So all the complexity, everything they have hidden within the package. You need not to learn all those things. You have to only know what that function does. So that's what you would see that you could see that actually Python different types actually. Like there's an iron Python, uh, different types actually. See, you have different types. These are the data types. What are the different types of Python you have? Something like you have different types like C Python versus Python Python versus Jython. See, many developers are there. See, this is what it is. Python. We need not to learn all these things. I'm not saying that you need to learn all these things, but I'm just saying based on the requirement, you need to understand many of these different Python flavors also. Now, when it comes to here, so what the Judio Van Radens did, right? He developed the whole Python, which is actually written in the C language actually, and he call it as a C Python actually. Okay, yes, C Python, and what he did, right, under his PSF. Python Software Foundation, right? He started releasing the Python. With the first version, Python 1.0. Next comes the Python 2. Series. Now you know that the Python 3. Series is there actually. Like this, different versions are there actually, like this. Okay, so all these are open source. It is available in your Python Software Foundation, guys. Okay, so now later, what are the other flavors which are developed Python, like Jython, Iron Python? It was developed by some other people. It is not done by the Gudio Vanderson team. He didn't develop other things because it's an open source. Right? Many people took the inspiration from the C Python, how he has worked on it. Similarly, they try to achieve through writing the Jython with the help of a Java. They have written the Jython one flavor. Similarly, like Iron Python, Python, right? Like that, they have written it. So so he is the fellow again. He's a maintainer of the C Python only. He and his team are, right? And he's a one person who sign off the new release of the Python. Okay, so that's how it is. That's how it is actually. So what we can do now, what we'll be doing in our upcoming sessions, right? Yeah, so I'm sorry. So that's what Python has become a extendable language. That's what I said, because like you can actually communicate from your Python to any other language actually. Even Python will communicate to the database also. Python can communicate with C hash, Java, any language you see it, you can communicate with that actually. Right. That's what we call it as a extended language. And Python is also a open source. That's what I discussed. Right. So now here, if you go to the Python release actually. On please releases. You go to this python.org. This is the site which is maintained by PSF, right? So you could see that there are different are there actually. Okay, why it is showing like this? Okay, hold a second. It's not source release. You can call it as a version type set, version history. See guys. So the latest 24th March is see Python 3.10 actually. And you could see that the first version, which was released in 1996, something like that. Yeah, 96 Python 1.4. Now what happened that the people who were working on 2. Series, right? Like the Python 2. Series, it was supporting up to 2000, see, 2020, up to 2020 they are supporting. It means that the companies who are using the Python, right? The Python. So what they did, right? They started coding their application in Python 2.0 series actually, right? But the thing is that as what they did, right? What the Python PSF, right? The Python software organization, what they did, right? They started improvising more and more, and finally they came with the 3. Series actually, right? So now we have Python 3 actually. Okay, we'll see that what is Python 3 and Python 2 difference. We'll see later. So, but to make sure that the customers or the people who are using Python on Python 2, right? They told that actually that we will be giving the support up to 2020. Python 2 series. After 2020, we will not be giving any support. See, even though the Python 3 series came in 2008 itself, see, But still what happened that they said that we will be supporting up to 2020 this Python 2.7 or up to Python 2 series actually. So they have given a time of some, if you take from 2008 to 2020, they have given a time of 12 years. It means that the companies who have developed an application in the Python 2 series, right, if they want to migrate into the new, right, they have to do the changes of all the code so that that code will work in the Python 3. So whatever the code which is written Python 2, right, that will not work in Python 3 actually. There is some, a lot of changes are there, right? That's the reason what happened that this Python org, right, they have given so much time to all the people so that you can migrate from the Python 2 to Python 3. That's what they are giving the Python support up to 2.7. So nowadays people, all the companies, right, many of the developers, they shifted to the Python 3 now. Even our many of our Python scripts are, which I've seen, right, they have written in the Python 3 actually. So that's the reason, like they have been maintaining the Python 2.7 up to 2020. After that, you will see that after Python 3, Python 4, you will see that it's all obsolete actually. This will go off actually. Python 1, Python 2, they'll all remove from this Python org, right? They will remove all the supports, everything. Okay, so we will be learning mainly on the Python 3 itself actually. So what we'll be learning in our upcoming classes. So the stuff is that actually we will be seeing how to install Python. It is very simple. So we will be learning Python, understanding everything onto the Windows platform as well as onto the Linux platform, understanding what are the different types of variables we have, how to play with the variables, and what are the different functions which is provided, models and everything. Finally, we'll be learning something on the programming construct also. Like how, suppose I need to write some, assume that I need to write some calculator program, or there's a calculator program is there. Suppose assume that. Okay, Python calculator program code or something. You go to this site. This is a very good site, Geeks for Geeks. You go it actually. Right. So I am not going with this actually. Later I will tell you why I'm not going. I will go with some basic, very simple. Let me go with this code actually. Right. This is a simple calculator. Let me copy this actually. Copy it. And I think I'll just let me exit out. Okay, where I am. Stager now. I don't think I will write one program, something like calculator dot py, something. The extension you have to give. I'll just paste this actually. Okay, this is the programming construct we have to. We'll be learning all these things, guys. Okay, don't worry about all these things. This is just a program. I'll say this program. I need to execute this. So what I'll do, I'll just say Python. Python is already installed. If I say Python-FN version, you could see that the Python 2.7 is there. So of course we have to migrate to 3. So I'll just run this program, Python, and specify this program. So I'll say 1, give the number 10. Okay, sorry, 10. I'm giving the input as a 10 and give the next number as 20. So you'll get the summation as 30. Right? So it is an interpreted language. You are executing the Python. You can executing the program directly. So you are not compiling it here, even though it internally compiling it and giving an output. But I'm not really worried about how it is compiling and all. I want to get execute. I want to directly run that program. So that's what Python is. We call it as an interpreted language. But still, Python will in turn compiles. To show that how it compiles, you can use that Python Python. What is the option? I have forgotten. -m py_compile and give the. Let's see how it does. Now, if you do analysis of an LTR, you could see there is a python.py. See, this is the bytecode actually. If I open this bytecode, sorry, I think copy it again. See? Can you see this is in a bytecode order, right? I can even run this also. See, where is it? See, guys. See, still it will work actually. It will work. So here I'm telling that I need the compiled output actually I need. So what I'm using the option Python-m. What I did, guys, I use the history. See, I use this option -m py_compile calculator.py. I got calculator.pyc. This is a file.
That's a
So if I
bytecode file.
check
Okay.
that file type, it's just a byte compiled. It's a byte compiled. You could see the type of file, right? It's a byte compiled. So we'll be learning many things, guys. It is very interesting to learn the
Awesome.
Python, right? So I think you understood the crux of Python, right?